Welcome back. Today I've got a 2018 Chevy Equinox. It's got a P1101 code. My other P1101 codes seem to be popular, and you never know what you're going to get when you're diagnosing this code because it really could be caused by a few different things. This vehicle's already been diagnosed by another shop. Let me see what their notes say. Diagnostic trouble codes of P0300 and P1101. Code 300 references random engine misfire. Code 1101 references intake flow system fault. Testing and inspection revealed positive pressure in engine crankcase. Suspect failed PCV valve. Replacement requires partial removal of direct injection fuel system, which requires special tools. Recommend dealer for repair. So according to this other shop, it's been diagnosed as a PCV failure, and that is a possibility for a P1101 code. I believe there is a bulletin for that, so we may end up testing for that. But let's check codes because I've been told it also has a misfire code. Okay, I had to move the car out of the sun to get rid of the sun glare on the screen, and I'll try and do a screen recording too, just to make more stable viewing. Go ahead and check codes. What do we got? Don't think everything is loaded in yet. Okay, there we go. We've got ECM codes, engine control module code P0300, P1101, and P0304. So the P1101 code can be caused by anything that will cause the engine to run differently, breathe differently, or if the engine control module measures the airflow is not theoretically what it should be. A misfire could cause a P1101 code, but I don't necessarily think that a P1101 code could cause a misfire. So I think we may have two different things going on, or we've got a misfire that is actually causing the P1101 code. So from here, we're going to go to engine misfire data. And right away I see cylinder 4 has history misfires stored, about 2,877 history misfires stored. I've already done some preliminary checks such as checking engine oil and coolant and all that. So I'm going to now take a road test and actually verify whether we do have a cylinder 4 misfire, and we'll see what's going on. Right out of the gate, it seems to run okay. And there, when I try to accelerate a little harder, it is bucking, jerking, and misfiring, and we are recording misfires on cylinder 4. So confirmed we do have a misfire going on. We're going to go back to the shop, and from here what I think I would do is I would check the spark plugs, check the ignition coil, because this seems like an ignition misfire more so than anything else. It seems to run okay most of the time, and then under additional load we've got a misfire only on one cylinder. That suggests an ignition misfire. There it goes, it's running badly again. And now the check engine light's actually flashing. runs okay unless you push it. The more throttle I give, it wants to start dropping that cylinder out. And now it's actually started to misfire bad enough to cause the traction control light, etc., to come on. I've got all sorts of warning messages flashing on the cluster. It's not very happy about it. And there's a view of all the warning messages that just came on with the check engine light flashing. Time to go back to the shop and inspect secondary ignition components. All right, we have our answer. I went ahead and removed cylinder 4 spark plug, and it's got a nice crack down the porcelain. So that explains the cylinder 4 misfire under load. Now we just need to chase after the P1101 code and make sure there's nothing going on there. The other shop did diagnose it as a faulty PCV system, so let's check into that. Not only is it cracked, but it's got a big chunk missing out of it, and I actually found the chunk sitting down in the hole. Luckily it had not fallen into the cylinder. Where'd my little thing go? I used this, I stuck it down in there, and I blocked off the hole to prevent the porcelain falling down into the hole, and then I'd used my air wand and just blew it out of there. So I believe I did get all the pieces. This particular customer has driven about just over an hour to come see me today, and she is waiting. I also have 2 other waiters. I just knocked one of them out, so I have 2 waiters, this one and another vehicle to look at. I'm just trying to wrap up the P1101 code diagnosis just to make sure that the other shop was correct or not. We know we have a misfire, and we know we have a faulty spark plug at a minimum. The other shop did not mention any of that. I think that what they did is they decided it needed a PCV valve replacement according to them, and at that point they stopped diagnosis. And I can understand the logic. When you have a blaringly obvious problem, and you might want to start there before you recommend anything further, but to me, it was an incomplete diagnosis. They should have checked both concerns. They should have checked into both codes. So I'm going to start up the engine. Whenever I'm diagnosing a P1101 code, I like to compare mass airflow sensor with calculated mass airflow and just see if they are close, and they are pretty close at an idle. That's good enough for me. Another thing that I like to check is any of these mass airflow sensor circuit test PIDs. They say malfunction. Don't know if that's actually a problem or not because it's not setting any mass airflow sensor codes. I'll also scroll down and check the map performance test PIDs as well. So from what I'm seeing right now with the calculated mass airflow sensor and the actual mass airflow sensor reading basically right on top of each other right now, let's check what that actual P1101 test status. So this ignition has passed. That doesn't mean it's going to pass next time. P1101 codes typically will come and go. They can be pretty difficult to diagnose. So from here, especially when you have an ignition misfire, as well as, well, not a misfire. Whenever you have a P1101 code and a misfire symptom, it's good to inspect engine health, because I have seen mechanical failures such as a cracked piston cause a P1101 as well. Like I've mentioned before, a P1101 is a theoretical comparison to what the engine is currently breathing and what it is being measured as being breathing. So it's a comparison. The ECM says, by the math, this engine should theoretically breathe X, and we've measured X and Y. So they don't match up. We've got a problem. We're going to set a P1101 code, and that's where I come in. I have to actually measure, see what's going on and see if we actually have an airflow measurement problem or do we have an airflow breathing problem to diagnose. So for that, I've got the evap test cart over there because it's got the low pressure gauge, inches of water gauge for an accurate crankcase pressure measurement. I put the union cover on just because the customer's waiting, and I don't know if we will be performing the repair, and she may want to drive the car back home. I don't know. But typically what I'll do is I'll pull the dipstick tube, and can you see the vapors puffing, puffing, puffing? So normally when you have a bad piston, you'll have a rhythmic, like an odd, it'll go 1, 2, 3, puff, 1, 2, 3, puff, 1, 2, 3, puff. But what I'm seeing here is basically normal. It's very hard to capture that on camera, but nothing to worry about there. Let me grab my hose and stick it in there so we can actually check crankcase pressure. And we've got a normal flutter. This is exactly what I expect to see. If you did have a bad piston, you could actually see a gauge flutter, and I'll see if I have any footage of what that might look like. But already we've failed our PCV test because the PCV pressure in the crankcase is actually supposed to be -1 to -5 inches of water, and we have a positive value. So yes, I think the other shop was accurate in their diagnosis, and we most likely have a clogged PCV valve. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if the customer is going to have us do the repair or me do the repair, at least. But there you have it. It's diagnosed. P1101 diagnosed as faulty PCV valve. My diagnosis agrees with the other shop. We also had a cylinder 4 misfire that the other shop did not choose to diagnose. That ended up being a cracked spark plug, so we need to do the spark plugs while we have it apart to do the PCV. Typically what I find with a failed PCV system causing a P1101, it will be a clogged PCV valve. So if I am the one to perform the repair, I'll show you, and we'll see. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I just received word that the customer does want to move forward with the repair. However, parts and customer scheduling, they're not going to be back for the repair for about 2 weeks, so I'm going to put a new spark plug on cylinder 4 so she can drive it in the meantime. Don't know what I've got for length on this video thus far. I may make 2 videos out of this one. We'll see. You get what you get. Until then, take care. Just over a week later, the customer has returned for the repair. In part 1, we diagnosed and confirmed the other shop's diagnosis of the PCV system failure. In part 2, we will cover the repair, so check it out there. Thanks.